So, dear colleagues, we were close to finish the conference. There is still the last discussion, final discussion, which is devoted to the anniversary of Jewish studies, the 200th anniversary of Jewish studies, Wissenschaft, the Judentums. So we don't have much time, but about half an hour or less. And so I just suggest to present some thoughts and some reflections on the present and let's see, some prospects of for the study of Jewish literature within Wissenschaft, within Jewish studies in the world. Let's consider some cases. Yeah, we have the speakers from 7 countries. Mordechai from Israel, York from Germany, I'm from Ukraine, Amelia from the United States, Joanna from Poland, and please Myroslav, the Canadian case, and who else? Tatiana, Ukraine, maybe where's Sergei? Sergei, please. Belarus, yeah. Okay, so who wants to start? Amelia?
So yeah, no, and I think it's a really interesting. I like the pretext. I like the idea that we're thinking about where we are now, 200 years after this formal founding of the Wissenschaft des Judentums, which of course was a moment in Germany when it was an Enlightenment moment, right? It was this moment when Jewish studies became something that was a science, and there was an epistemological shift that happened. Right? Suddenly, understanding something Jewish didn't necessarily imply a relationship to God, and also a relationship to Jewish time, right? Jewish time if you go and study in the yeshiva, Jewish time works a little bit differently from, let's say, university time or scientific time, right? In Jewish time, we're sort of getting dumber and dumber, right? God, knows something a lot, everything, passed on a lot of information to Moses, who knew a lot more than any of the rest of us, and you just get kind of dumber and dumber down from there. The great rabbis knew really a lot, and the more recent rabbis knew not quite as much, but still a lot more than us, and now we're just trying to go back and dig into texts in a kind of exegetical process, trying to understand what there is to learn about the source of everything. And scientific time works differently, right? We're getting smarter. We're learning things. We're gathering things, and this is Hegel, right? Enlightenment. We're gradually developing. We're becoming more civilized. We're becoming somehow smarter. And this Wissenschaft comes out of that impulse. This idea to turn the study of Judaism into something that we can look at as a science. And I think all of our fields, all of our disciplines come from this tradition within the university, since I think most of us here come out of a university tradition, but it's a tradition that has nonetheless historically had to negotiate with other forms of the making of wisdom, of the finding of wisdom. So I can just say a couple of things as the chair of the director of Jewish studies at my university. I was brought on as the director of Jewish studies. I don't have any degrees in Jewish studies. I have degrees in comparative literature. I have a degree in Yiddish studies, I guess that counts. But I was brought into the program, and as soon as I came to the program, my first move was to change the title from Judaic Studies to Jewish Studies, which was not at all controversial. It was long waiting to happen. Our students wanted Jewish Studies, not Judaic Studies. But I do find that even in the time that I've directed this program, which has been about 3 years now, 3 years, we've moved away from the realm of kind of traditional Jewish knowledge, right? What did Rashi say? To sort of, you know, what constitutes Yiddish hip hop, and which for me is more in my comfort zone. I know much more about hip hop than about Rashi, but not that I'm an expert in either. But I do see I see risks to that shift, not to the epistemological shift away from this kind of yeshiva style studying, but from a shift away from religious origins to what we study, even in my own approach to literature, because my archive belongs to the world of secular culture and not to the world of religious culture. I'm very aware of the loss. This is something that the writers that I study were very aware of and were very concerned about. So I think it is an appropriate moment, 200 years after the founding of this rationalist approach to Jewish studies, for us to take stock. And someone like Vitaly is more prepared perhaps to talk about the interface, since you actually do work in the field of religious studies, at least more than I do, to talk about how that might interface. For you, you know, how do you think about a degree program for your students, for example? What does a student who graduates from a university with whatever degree you're giving them, what do they need to know in order to go out into the world and say that they know something about, you know, Judentum? So I'm just going to throw that out as a question and stop talking. Is that it?
Thanks, but I'll talk a bit later.
Oh, okay.
I would like colleagues to, I want colleagues to speak first. So maybe, of course, you had to start because Wissenschaft is from Germany.
Exactly, it has a German name, as I have, that's what we have in common. But now I understood I have maybe an outside perspective that might be interesting. So it seems to me that Judaistic or Jewish studies programs and departments in Germany, though they are never really under threat to be closed down, but they are in crisis. We have this, especially in Cologne, we're trying to appoint a new head of the department for 7-8 years now, and always something goes wrong. And there are literally 2 or 3 students, active students. And the question of how Jewish studies programs interact with the faculty is still a big question. How they can be integrated. And I think all this integration was there in the Wissenschaft with Judentums. So that already from the very beginning the answers were there. Maybe we've forgotten them. Then another perspective in last year in Krakow. We discussed with on the invitation of François Guinet the possibility of joint programs in Jewish studies. And what I saw then, what was implicit in these discussions, were that many universities in Western Europe had fantastic offers and very few students, and the numbers in Central and Eastern Europe, the student numbers are much higher, but there is a great fear of drain. And we afterwards we spoke and we said, we don't understand, why are you afraid? We have something to give you, the possibility of an exchange, but why this fear? That's the second point, and the third point is maybe when you look at the candidates who might apply for the Jewish studies, and you compare with the candidates who apply for I don't know, German literature, English literature, you feel that they have 4, 5, 6 languages they work with, the languages you need in order to do Jewish studies. If Jewish studies does not turn into something like Israel or Jewish cultural studies in general, where you do not need any language, but if you have a proper institute, then we still agree we need at least one person who has all the proper education in the different layers of Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek, and then you have somebody with Arabic, and you have a scholarly workshop which is so impressive and which adds something to the faculty. And I think that was part of the fascination of the Wissenschaft with Judentums. If you look at its cultural impact, of influence in literature, its influence upon the German academic world, that there you had the personalities who knew both worlds, and that was such an impressive part. And the awareness of this tradition sometimes, in my perspective, is lacking. So that very few colleagues at my faculties are aware that this is what a Martin Luther Institute could be.
Thanks. Yona?
We can reserve what we want, but I think that we should think about a new generation. And in Poland, I see that they are looking for more progressive literature, not classic, not for them is not interesting Sholem Aleichem, Mendele Moicher Sporim, Itzhak Leibush Perec. They are looking for example, avant-garde, for homoerotic subjects, for feminist subjects. And this is my opinion, that new generation is completely different from our generation, from Skrzypek, Octavian Lecharz, etc. And the main problem in Jewish studies, I think that is we don't have one methodology, and we have different methodology. And for me, this the main problem. We have studies in Jewish studies in Wrocław, but I see that this is the main problem, not one methodology.
Is it a problem or rather challenge?
Challenge, but we have only 3 years, yes, and this is our reality, and this is challenge, but this is also a big problem.
Do you agree that we should have one methodology?
Sorry.
Methodology.
One methodology.
Yeah, methodology. This is problem in our learning.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by methodology. What are the different methodologies? Can you just describe them?
Because we have history, and we have languages and history of literature, and we should use different methodologies. But we have students only from Jewish studies, not from history, not from literature studies, and this is a big challenge.
Disciplines.
I see. So it's more of a disciplinarity. We're more talking about interdisciplinarity, and that it's more enriching to bring students from multiple.
I think what Joanna wants to say is that if you teach within a Jewish studies program, you can't teach a proper historian, you can't teach a proper literary scholar, and this is what you see as a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I believe that you have the tradition, and coming from Slavic studies, I feel this difference that the Slavic studies was really found in the 1960s, 70s. It was established as a proper discipline, and you feel this youth and lack of experience and lack of tradition when you compare it with the field of Jewish studies. So there's something to be, I think, very, very something that can be built on, and a methodology that comes from the Wissenschaft is Judentums. It was created there, and philological historical approach is not. They are not so different if you compare it with the lack of established traditions in some modern humanities. So I think it's good not to forget these roots where the history and literature and religion was naturally connected.
Thank you, Mordechai. Israel.
I want to say a few words about the study of Yiddish literature in Israel. One of the last Yiddish writers in Israel, Yitzhak Vaad, he was the editor of Letzte Neues, told, die jiddische Literatur hat gehabt Asach Sakonis in ihr Leben. Das Letzte, was letztlich der Harden in den Ganzen, ist der Akademisatie. The academization is the most danger for the Yiddish literature. Unfortunately, the most Yiddish writers feel so. There is a Hebrew writer, Chaim Be'er. He gave an interview in the Israel radio a few months ago. And he spoke about the study of Hebrew literature, and he told the literature was written for people, not as a material for researchers. There is a hard problem, how to study, how to teach the Yiddish literature, not only for students in the university, but for the wider public. In Israel, it was a revolution in this space. I remember, I live in Israel 30 years, this year is 30 years. I remember in 1989, I came the first time to Beit Levik, the house of Yiddish writers in Tel Aviv, and there were old writers, and they cried. Noch a Jahr wird schon keiner nicht nehmen kein Jiddisch Buch in der Hand. Noch a paar Jahr wird schon nicht sein zu werden, geben eine jiddische Lehre. Wer wird uns darfen? The writer Meir Haratz, that immigrated from Chernowitz to Israel, wrote a poem, Mir, we. And he wrote, Wenn seien mir noch nötig, wer darf uns haben? It was so tragic to hear them. And now we see a process that they didn't dream about it. About 2,500 people come every month in non-academic frames and study Yiddish literature. Bilingual, Yiddish and Hebrew. And every year we see more and more and more. I made very interesting experience. In my courses, there were many people in the 90s and that said, I want to see the town of my grandmother. I want to see Yehupetz, Odessa, Berdichev. In the 1995, I provided and guided the first tour for Israelis, literally folkloristic tour to Ukraine. From 1995 I provided it during 22 years. About 3,500 Israelis came to Ukraine to see the motherland of modern Yiddish literature. And after the tour, they came to learn, to study Yiddish literature in non-academic frames. And everyone thought, ich gehe in Odessa von Londonskaya bis Fanconi, ich lehne Menachem Mendel, plötzlich ich sehe das. Die jiddische Literatur steht doch vor meinen Augen im 21. Jahrhundert. Dort ist der Menachem Mendel. Dort ist der griechische Platz. And I think there is a big perspective to bring the Yiddish literature to a wider public, Jewish and non-Jewish. There is a problem of methods of the teaching. This is a problem with academic lectures that not so feel the white public. The academic university lectures have a problem to speak for white public, and we have that problem in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Myroslav, curious about Canada.
The study of languages and foreign languages and literatures is in trouble I think in Canada and in many North American universities, mainly because most university administrations and deans are looking at enrollments. They only support programs that have a lot of students. And the programs that have the least students, generally at universities, are programs like exotic languages, Yiddish, Hebrew, Slavic studies, Slavic languages, maybe Portuguese, and those are being cut. They're disappearing. The strategy at the back of people's minds is how to bring students into these programs. Usually what happens is we don't have a department of, say, Slavic studies or a department of Jewish studies. We have a program, which means that you have maybe somebody in the history department who has specialization, somebody in a language linguistic program that has specialization, somebody in political studies that have specialization. And you tend to organize a program around available people with maybe one coordinator. And in order for the program to develop, you have to make it attractive. So one has to go where the energy is, where the student excitement is. And usually that is something like Holocaust studies or anti-Semitism, or it is something to do with something topical, political issues. And so you get a very sort of strange mixture of courses. My understanding is that the traditional philology approach is dying because no university will support a program with 3 students, or if you're lucky, maybe 2 students. They're just not doing it anymore. So that model is just not functioning as far as I can see. So we have very few programs across Canada, for example, and they're usually very small, and they're pretty much all in trouble. The ones that function are the ones that are funded. If you have a rich funder, a rich donor, they can, for $3 million, $3 million, you can create a professorship. And that professorship will exist forever, because the professor will be paid from the annual interest on the endowment. And that's the only way these programs survive. So currently, I'm trying to raise $3.5 million for Slavic studies, for a professor of Ukrainian. That's the only way that we will have a professor of Ukrainian.
I should quit.
Because they're not going to replace me. I retired. We were lucky to get half a position, but they're not going to replace me. We have to go. This year they cut Icelandic, Portuguese, I think Italian, about 5 languages. And it's the same story across other universities. Small languages are disappearing. So the philological model just isn't going to work unless you have funding, a core person is funded. I'm sorry to be so depressing, but that's sort of the model. However, I think there's energy in the Ukrainian-Jewish, in Eastern Europe. I think there's energy and interest and potential in the Eastern European situation. And this conference and the excitement in this conference room is proof of that. Everything that was just said by Mordecai is very true, If you can bring students to a place like this, they get excited, and then they want to learn. So, we have to think in new ways, is what I'm saying, if you will. So and the last thing I want to say is this. The programs that do survive and do well generally have students learn at high school. So the German program in our department is extremely successful because we have German in high schools, all the way up to university. And the students just go through the program, immediately go into German, and then we have a booming German program with contacts with Germany, and the administration looks at the numbers and they say, fantastic, this is a great program. Lots of students, but let's support it. A similar thing in Spanish. Students do Spanish in high school, they go straight into university, it's very popular as well. French, for example, is doing badly. Even though it's a state language, it's not doing very well. So I'm sorry to be a little bit.
Can I make a really quick observation? You put it really well, and yes, and worse. So 200 years, right, since the Wissenschaft is founded, it's a very different situation then, because you're talking about an academy for just a few people, an academy for the elite,
Right.
and you're talking about raising a culture that was not considered serious, the level of seriousness, by putting it into the ivory tower. And now we're talking about this, capitalist state of at least North American education, where it's a very different story. Everyone is supposed to go to university now, but everyone needs to study something that will get them a job, and so we're now dealing with a completely different set of priorities and motives.
The universities will not pay for professors are expensive,
Right.
and university administrations do not want to pay for a professor. They might pay for a language instructor at a very, very low salary.
Yeah. So what is that? So where does that? I guess that's the big question: is where does that leave us? On the one hand, you have all this excitement around exciting research that people are doing, sometimes without very high stipends, all over the world. And on the other hand, you have this question of what does it mean to be an academic discipline? in 2019. And to remain an academic discipline, what does one need to incorporate into that discipline? What does one need in order to allow it to thrive?
Maybe there can be a different approach than looking at all the small philologies. In Cologne, we've managed to open in recent years a Serbian lectureship. With the overall budget going down, we've managed to open a Slovene lectureship, and we want to open a Ukrainian lectureship. With the explaining that it wouldn't make sense. Why study, if you want to study Slovene, you go to Ljubljana. And you can't explain to anybody that you will have these students. And if the vast majority in our department are students with a Russian language background, with second generation Polish immigrants, and that is not whom you really want to address. You want to address somebody who learns the culture from zero. And for that to happen, what you need to show is that these national philologies, these national scholarly traditions have something to offer that we do not have. And this is, I believe that this is the trick that works. That the philology department in Belgrade is so strong in some elements that it is important for us. We managed to explain why it is important. And I believe the same is true for Ukrainian studies, the same is true for Yiddish with its absolute unique situation. And the approach to get somebody into these programs, so look, this is an academic tradition that has something. You can learn, no matter what you study, what you will do, but you can learn from this philology, or from this approach to history. You can learn something which is essential for all of you. And I believe that this was an element of fascination. Wissenschaft, these Judentums didn't exist in a closed world. They were, because they wrote in a language of European scholarship, then probably the language of European scholarship, they were visible, and their scholarship was meaningful because it was on a level which did not exist at the time in German philology.
Sergei, do you wish to add something? And finally, Ukraine.
Yeah. I don't feel myself so.
You can speak about 3 countries in India. Belarus, Lithuania, and the Czech Republic.
I focus on Belarus only, and I don't feel so much qualified to participate in the discussion at such a level, but still I try to find something to catch on. So, actually, as I already said yesterday, there are no such branch of humanitarian sciences as Jewish studies at any of Belarusian high schools, universities, or state, non-state, nothing. But the most important things that exist that could just like be a maybe starting point for development of such studies are, first of all, the yearly Congress, International Congress of Belarusian Studies, which opens tomorrow in Vilnius this time. Normally it's in Kaunas. Once it was in Warsaw, now it's in Vilnius, and this coming Saturday and Sunday there will be a Jewish panel or Jewish section and 3 panels. It's called Jewish Studies in the Belarusian Context. There will be about 15 participants this year from different countries: Belarus, Ukraine, Germany, Israel, Poland, Lithuania. They will be discussing all kinds of topics, just could be embraced by this quite broad title. And there are some interesting people coming to those congresses, and I was always working in another section. I was in biblical translation, so I don't know what's happening right there. But it's a good place for some contacts, for making plans for what could be done. Another thing that I think of is there was some special program on Jewish studies at it's only outside Belarus, but it's still Belarusian. It's our university in exile, EHU, European Humanitarian University, which was expelled from Belarus in late 90s, I think.
It's 204.
Yeah. So it's based in Vilnius now, and they had something like Jewish studies, and they were publishing kind of scientific publication called the Zeitschrift, which is the continuing the tradition of the Zeitschrift from late 20s, means in Academy of Sciences. But they stopped publishing. Maybe this program would just like stopped. I don't know what. Maybe Sergei will know better. And that practically all. On an individual level, I know of some students who just go to make their postgraduate studies in Jewish studies in Poland, in Israel, in other countries. Sometimes they come back, sometimes not. So we have people, but we don't have yet. The state is not interested in it. Right? They say, let Jews resolve their problems themselves. We don't have anything to do with it. We have no money for it. We have no enough money for ourselves. But there's no interest in it, like observed on the highest level. And that's more or less the situation, which just corresponds to the situation in the field of translations, as I described it yesterday. So, but I don't know, we'll be following all of you closely and just trying to go after you. You'll make the path for us. We'll go after you, and I hope I'm quite optimistic because there is some interest. There is a tradition. There's this just the land itself, which has some, I don't know, some Jewish virus in the air, which many people who don't have anything to do with Jews and Jewry just catch that virus, and that's it.
Can I make one more comment? What I am noticing, and I think this is really productive. I was skeptical, but this is actually really useful. We're all in very similar boats here. You know, not every university needs to be JTS or to be Brandeis. We just don't. We don't need to sustain that necessarily. That's not what universities are doing. Yeah, I mean. But we do have a world that's tighter knit in certain ways, right? We have technology that is, we have conferences, and so I foresee, and this is a doomsday scenario, but I think it's going to happen at my university. I foresee a future where we have one humanities department: history, philosophy, literature, all the area studies, one department, one small staff. I see it coming at a place like UC San Diego, which is a very technology-intense university. Excellent university, but much more in the sciences. But I still have my work I'll do if I, stay at UC San Diego. And I do think that there's the opportunity for a really smart student who wants to study from a selection of the group of people in this room to get a degree studying from people in this room. I do think it will involve a lot of creativity. It'll involve partnerships. It'll involve virtual meetings using whatever Skype technology is out there. It will involve having lots of conferences like this. So I think that is the direction we're going. So what can we do to stay ahead of that? To be forward thinking as agents of our own fate, knowing that this is. The writing's kind of on the wall.
Or the worst scenario, the second scenario, there are no humanities departments at the moment.
That's later.
When the universities say, we're interested in IT, chemistry,
right.
Okay, political science and humanities, and it's risky and. But situation when humanities include Jewish studies, okay, we know that Jewish studies is mostly about humanities and political science, first of all, yeah. So and then humanities, including Jewish studies, Judaic studies, stay outside the universities. So you have like Wissenschaft back to 100 years ago. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, I guess my proposal is more optimistic than that
Sure.
collectively, I'm throwing a proposal on the table, that collectively, you know, this subsets of this group of people could train students together as geographically dispersed as we are. And I think that's, you know, I think that's a possibility that needs to be considered more.
Answering to your case, because there is no National Association for Jewish Studies in Belarus yet, there are no programs, university programs, degree programs. I remember that Celino's one colleague, not from Belarus, from Ukraine, but she feels she still wants to see Jewish studies in Belarus, and I don't want to name her. No, I don't want to name her. And she asked me, would you like, the Ukrainian Association for Jewish Studies, to help your to help your colleagues in Belarus to build Jewish studies in Belarus? I answered, I have no idea how to do this. No, in terms, you know, I can't do this because it's your own way. That's it. So, some advice, and yeah. But we can't do this instead. Okay, so very limited time, Tatiana, please. Finally, about Ukraine.
Vitaly has asked me to say some words about Ukraine. First of all, I would like to address and comment a bit about our previous speakers. I would like to thank to Myroslav, Professor Shkandrij, for your high hopes about Eastern Europe and probably Ukrainian Jewish studies. And I also agree with Joanna that the younger generation of students who study in universities, Jewish studies or Yiddish studies, unfortunately in Ukraine we do not have philology or linguistics separately, we have Jewish studies. They need not only more interesting, modern, contemporary, avant-garde topics to be interested in. They need new approaches. I teach Yiddish and I sometimes feel that I am out of date. I love dictionaries and I love books. They use Google and Google Translate doesn't translate Yiddish, for example. I try to explain to them, to play with them with dictionaries and to explain how to work with sources in different ways. But it's not about the situation with Jewish studies. And I'm grateful to Mordechai, who is giving this big series of lectures for various audiences, for students, for teachers, not only Jewish but also Ukrainians, about Yiddish literature and about Yiddish writers, destinies, Yiddish land, making it more public, because it's not only the problem of academic Jewish studies and Wissenschaft des Judentums, but also in order for someone to go to the university at some specialty, they should know that there is such specialty and what does it mean. We celebrate 200 years of Wissenschaft des Judentums, but if to speak about Ukraine, we had big breaks and even breaches in Jewish studies academic traditions. We spoke today and yesterday about wonderful hopes, revolutionary hopes, avant-garde Kulturliga organization, which was founded in Kiev in January 1918. There was great cooperation of Ukrainian and Jewish intelligentsia in the period, and afterwards, till late 20s, when Soviet Ukraine was more free, not that standardized in all spheres. We had Jewish studies being developed, and not only Jews involved in Jewish studies, but also Ukrainian. There were libraries, academic institutions, and the last academic institution was closed in 1949, and the books from Cabinet of Jewish Cultures were put in stocks. Some of them might have been damaged or even destroyed during the Second World War, and only in 1990 these books were, and manuscripts, Jewish, which are in Judaica department of National Library of Ukraine, they were started to taken out, and only the librarians started to look at them, and in 1991 readers can come and research. 1994 even, you know. And then sometimes we discuss with Vitaly and some of our other Ukrainian colleagues Ukrainian Jewish studies. Vitaly told me that, oh yeah, we have 30 years of Ukrainian Jewish studies. I told him, what?
Contemporary.
Contemporary. Okay. I was furious because I told him, you know, 30 years, it's probably a good period, but what were the Jewish studies in 1990s? There were some people who were not repressed or who have remembered Yiddish as mother tongues, and they did some translations, some researches. There were some local historians who started to write about Jewish local history, or kind of local law museums or something. They recollected there were Jews in their districts or regions. But these people writing about Jewish history were just giving statistics of Jews or using some documents in Ukrainian or Russian languages as sources without any, first of all, other languages, even English, to be in contact with all the science, using Wissenschaft, this Judentums, or not even speaking about Hebrew, Yiddish, Aramaic, if to speak about biblical studies. And what we have now we have some smaller development. We have at least 3 academic Jewish studies centers in Ukraine. I mean Kyiv, Lviv, and Ostrog. It's Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, Ukrainian Catholic University in Lviv, and Ostrog Academy, which is also National University as Kyiv-Mohyla Academy. I'm lucky that I was an alumni of non-degree program in Jewish Studies established in 2003, which was part of certificate program of Kyiv-Mohyla curriculum established by Vaad of Ukraine, and it would give courses in classical texts, Hebrew, Yiddish, some history, some culture, and some invited lectures. We were lucky that people would come to us. Then Vitaly and his colleagues were doing a great job to establish master program in Jewish studies. It's good or bad that we have it as Jewish studies under the Department of History. We were part of the Department of History, now it's a bit more independent, but still we are having this as history program. But I'm grateful that the concept of our Jewish Studies program was still interdisciplinary, because we cannot have now Yiddish linguistics, Hebrew linguistics. We have some linguistics now in other universities in Kyiv, like the Linguistic University, language, Hebrew, okay. We cannot have some other part of Jewish studies or sphere. So the concept was that we have it kind of history, part of history department program, Jewish studies. But the concept was that the students should study languages, Hebrew and Yiddish, have our history general courses, history courses in Jewish studies, in Jewish history, or Jewish Ukrainian history, and also big effort to invite visiting professors who would give this contemporary avant-garde and modern mythology hints of other spheres in Jewish studies, and this gives small but good development and fruits. We have seen our former alumni, like Oksana, who is also alumni of certificate program in Jewish studies, non-degree, then Alexandra, auditor of master program in Jewish studies, also Olena Starmova with wonderful report and speech about Agnon. And some of enthusiasts in Gulf, Nadia is also helping us a lot in doing good PhD research now. Some students, they leave pure academic sphere of Jewish studies, they get into translations. But you cannot be in translations without having this academic Jewish studies knowledge, and usually it's also academic work. And I would like to ask Olena, which knows Hebrew better, do we have a lot of Hebrew Ukrainian translations of literature? Because we speak about Jewish literature today. At least, do we have some in recent years?
We have some
Yiddish, Hebrew Ukrainian, not Russian.
Hebrew Ukrainian isn't
Just, I know just a few.
Contemporary. I don't mean Amos Oz was translated in 90s. Before we had academic Jewish studies program, some smaller stories. Some smaller stories.
From Hebrew into Ukrainian.
Yes.
For last
some
5 years.
Stories in 90s.
Yeah, just a few.
Yiddish, we have and had some. We had some translations of these wonderful older generations who would like to preserve Yiddish heritage, and they would translate, not academic Jewish studies students. Now we have some newer translations of Tevye, as you've seen, some documentary sources, some smaller pieces, poetry also, Lviv colleagues do it, and documents. And I see that Hebrew is taught in a lot of places of Ukraine, not in academic institutions, not only, at Sochnut, Jewish Israel Agency, at Jewish youth organizations, at Israeli cultural centers, but it's very practical. People learn Hebrew for practical reasons, because it's language of State of Israel, because someone wants either to visit it or to go there for residence. Various reasons. It's practical. They also can be and do guided tours in Ukraine to bring Israeli people and show them Ukrainian, pardon me, earn and make money on Hebrew. But they do not involve in academic Jewish studies, mainly. We have one but good Aramaic specialist in Ostrog, Aramaic language I mean, and we have Yiddish enthusiasts, which do younger generation, which start doing greater job. And I see this prospect that we need more public talks on not only Jewish studies, but Ukrainian Jewish contacts, encounters, history, and including Jewish heritage, Yiddish, Hebrew, Ukrainian, I mean, based landscape, heritage, into general landscape of this state. It's going on now. And this may bring more understanding of what we want with Jewish studies and how we want this development. We still have plenty of sources and wonderful literature which might interest. In this also modern avant-garde topics, and I think there are some prospects. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Of course, I would like to add something about Ukraine, but it will be half an hour more. I'm sure. I find you too tight and hungry. So let me just thank you for coming to this conference. I guess we had very productive and pleasant time here. Yeah? Am I right?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Thank you.